right, good evening. It's Monday, April 10th, 2023. This is the Plan Commission meeting, and it looks like we have a quorum, and looks like we have a certification with our open meeting laws. So the first item for approval would be the minutes from the last meeting, and I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Schumacher and Caravello. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. Next item is council representative report. Alderperson Caravello.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah.
The only thing we have is from the March 28th meeting of council, a first reading of Ordinance 5 of 2023. I think that was it.
Alrighty. Staff reports.
I was just going to highlight one item. Tomorrow night, the Stonecrest Urban Service Area Amendment goes to the City Council. You'll recall Plan Commission took action on that and made a recommendation to Council. So that will be considered by the Council tomorrow night.
Any questions on staff? All right. We'll move into item number 7, which is the comprehensive plan amendments for STI Holdings. And before we go into the public hearing, we'll get an update from Steve Tremlett from MSA.
Can I speak louder?
Sure. Is that better?
A little hearing impaired.
Is that better? Okay. So tight up against the mic there, Steve.
Sounds good. So Steve Trumler, the MSA, working with Stoughton Trailers on their redevelopment of the 182 acres. Part of that process, as we talked about before, was consideration of the comp plan. While most of the uses are similar in what's being proposed, there are variations in size and location. Also part of the comp plan, Appendix B, includes the Linwood neighborhood plan that was created, I believe it was in 2005 when they were considering a Walmart on this property. And so that's a detailed plan that also has additional information that wouldn't resonate exactly with what Stoughton Trailers was presenting. What is Stoughton Trailers looking at is still business park or commercial uses along 51, which is similar. If you look at the current future land use map, is purple, planned mixed use. Still planning on a neighborhood, which is the yellow and brown speckle, but it's going to be on a smaller level than what's shown in here because partly there's a significant amount of wetlands and floodplain that has to be managed on this site. So there's actually going to be a larger park than is planned, and as shown now on the screen, a larger swath of green with the office building for Stoughton Trailers within that space. And so generally, the uses are the same, but we are showing more towards what the vision is. Also part of that amendment, as you'll see in following the memo, is where it discussed the Linwood neighborhood plan. Those are removed and noted STI Holdings, which is Stoughton Trailers. One other note is under the policy section, which is talking about under page 65 of that. You go to the next page, is the change of currently it spoke 10 to 15 dwelling units per acre for multifamily. We're proposing that it may be 15 to 30 dwelling units per acre. And also noting that Oak Ridge Way may go through as originally planned, or it may be a cul-de-sac with a sidewalk connection to that collector. And then on the last page is showing, in discussions with staff, that originally showed a 100-foot right-of-way for this main collector that would run through, and suggested that it would only need to be 80. So that's also changed the transportation map. We brought this information to a public house put on by the developer at the elementary school nearby, and there was nearly 160 to 200 people there. Had time to speak to people after the presentation, and it was very positive. And so we're presenting now what the amendment is, with the hopes that Plan Commission would recommend it to Council for first reading tomorrow.
All right. Any questions or comments from commissioners before we open it up for public hearing? Anything staff wants to add?
No, what I've got, what I have on the screen is what's depicted as the proposed land use map, as was described by Mr. Tremlett. It identifies the large area in the center as being principally a park area, park and open space. The location where Stoughton Trailers, our corporate headquarters is planned, is shown in this general area. And then the perimeter adjacent to Sandhill School and Lakeview Church, and along the perimeter to the east is this neighborhood future land use that's consistent with the future land use map that was in place or currently exists right now along that corridor. The principal area along the western edge of this property is still shown to be a planned mixed-use area, which will accommodate commercial activity.
So is there anything we need to know before we start actually talking about the comprehensive plan?
So this is the actual comprehensive plan map, the future land use map. The amendment area is the large square, if you will, that's depicted elsewhere. So the existing comprehensive land use map is this particular area shown in red. So you can draw some similarities from this versus what's being proposed in the future land use map. And Mr. Tremlett also identified the narrative changes that would be planned to be made as part of this amendment. Certainly available to answer questions, but certainly available for the public hearing aspect of it as well.
All right, any questions from commissioners?
I have one quick question that I may have just missed a little bit. Is Steve, what you mentioned about the collector street, changing that dimension? What was that again? Could you repeat that again?
So in the current comp plan, it was shown as a 100-foot right-of-way for that collector street. And in discussion with city staff, felt that 80 feet was the necessary amount for that right-of-way. So
80-foot corridor is a similar right-of-way width for Roby Road. If you recognize Roby Road all the way from 51 to Lincoln and even beyond, that's an 80-foot wide right-of-way.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners at this point? Hearing none, we'll close our regular meeting and then we'll reopen for the public hearing. And basically the rules of the public hearing are we ask people to sign up ahead of time. If you didn't, we'll get you in here anyway. And then we'll go in the order that they came in. And then we ask that you try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And please understand that this isn't a two-way conversation. We're here to listen. And certainly if the commissioners want to deliberate, they can when we go back into our regular meeting. So, but there won't be a back and forth conversation as part of the public hearing. So having said that, the first person that was signed up was Chris.
Here?
Yeah, you can adjust the mic there.
Good, thank you. Thank you for the time. My name is Chris Patterson. I live at 3045 County Road B, which is one of the houses there that the land is going to go behind in the new amendment. First, just thank you for the plans. I think for us, my wife Sonia and I moved here about a year ago. You know, we knew the land would be developed. It was never disclosed when we bought our house, but so we didn't know it was going to be quite so quick. Certainly understanding that Stoughton's a growing community in need of, you know, diverse housing, diverse businesses that can draw this in. It seems like a great plan. Us and neighbors are really concerned about what's going in behind our house, and I think one thing that is of all our concerns that we've seen a lot of different plans. Just asked that we saw some that was residential around our houses, and I think that will look better with the continuity of what's currently there, and also look nicer, you know, with the new development as well. You know, you'll see some developments that are, you know, have a 100-year-old farmhouse with new buildings, and our houses aren't that outdated. So I think it'll look better. It'll be nicer for us to have owner-occupied residents around us and behind us as well. The other thing I just want to speak of is the flood water. There is a lot of water in that farmland behind us, so I'm glad the park was extended. Thank you for that. I do think that this plan is a little bit different than the one that was presented at the school. It looked like there were some different ponds, and maybe it's just not as detailed, but as that's developed, certainly keep that, want that to keep in mind, because it seems like we're getting a lot more rain and torrential downpours, especially over the last few years. So that's really all I wanted to say is just thank you. Thank you for the consideration of our properties and what this future will mean to myself and my wife and our neighbors as well.
Thank you for being here. All right, next sign up is Jim.
Hello, my name is Jim Matke, and I reside at 3033 County Highway B, Stoughton. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and thank you for providing all the information in the packet. It was very helpful. I did submit some written responses to you for your packets also, so it's going to be pretty much similar to what was in the packet that I submitted earlier. We live next to Chris, and we have some of the same concerns. We've lived at the current address out on County B, which is going to be the extreme north side of this property that's developed. Every map that I've seen shows a residential area, and that's fine with us. The one concern that we do have is because of the long established neighborhood that we've had out there, some of these places have been there 50 plus years, is to continue the single family residential behind our properties to better blend what's there now and what will be there in the future. Also, one of our concerns is the stormwater runoff. Sometimes in big rains, we get a lot of stormwater runoff from the farm field that's just south of our property. And that's a concern that as this continues to be developed, that the stormwater runoff will flood our backyards, flood our basements, etc. So we'll be paying close attention to the stormwater runoff plan also. We do like the idea of a large park, and now that he commented earlier, it's going to be even larger. We certainly like that aspect of being able to walk to a large park in the area, and we think that'll be a big benefit to Stoughton area residents and Stoughton trailers as they develop their headquarters for their employees to be able to take a lunch break in some of these walking trails, et cetera, out there. So we certainly like that aspect also. We also like the idea of a trail that will run parallel and south of County B from Highway 51 to the river, the railroad tracks extended, because right now there are a lot of pedestrians, runners, bikers on B, and without anything off-road is a very dangerous situation. We run out there on County B quite often, and with 3 churches and an elementary school nearby, it is important to get pedestrians off of that busy street somehow. So having that trail extension, we feel is very important. So those are our concerns, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. All right, that's all I had signed up. Is there anyone else here that wanted to speak at the public hearing? Come on up, just make sure you give us your name.
You probably already know me from the other night.
Sure, we need your name and address for the records here so we can put it in the minutes.
Laura Eggers, 3081 County Road B, Stoughton. And I am the house that's on B that is right next to the big purple that starts. So my concern, or what I would like to know, and I know you guys can't answer, but I would like a better understanding of what this mixed commercial residential is going to be, seeing how it's going to be right at my front yard. This change seems to be better than the last one that I saw, because the last one I saw, they were going to put a commercial property next to me with a road in front of it, which would mean that it was probably going to face the road, which meant I would have a commercial building across the back on my front yard. So that didn't please me at all. I do know that there were plans originally approved from the city of Stoughton before Stoughton Trailers bought it, which was all going to be residential, and they were going to put single-family homes behind us. So I'm not sure how it got changed from single-family homes to now approved to be duplexes and condos. So if we could, I would like to have single-family homes behind me. So I mean, I know all we can do is ask. If we don't ask, we can't get anything. So that's where I'm at.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll close the public
Can I
hearing.
answer?
Oh, pardon me?
Yeah, I'm on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so my name's Rob Mossman. I'm at 1717 High Point Circle. I just had a couple of comments that, you know, we got Stoughton Trailers is building their headquarters and donating the land around it for parks. So they're going to have this lovely park, and I guess I'm wondering how much, you know, who's going to be maintaining the parks? They're very nice of them to give us the land and then expect Stoughton to maintain a park around their headquarters. So I'm just curious. Obviously, you can't answer the question, but I think they should be contributing to maintaining the property of that park as well, because it's obviously going to be useful to them. One other question I have, which I know you guys aren't answering at the moment, but are they going to plant corn this year? Because if they don't, we're going to have a dirt storm. So I don't know whether before construction starts on the park end, whether or not they've let it out to have corn planted again. I'm just concerned about a big dirt field, and I'm almost right beside it. So that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and then reopen for our business. Are there any initial questions from commissioners?
Maybe just to address one of the.
Make sure you get up to the mic.
Oh, yeah. Just to address one of the comments in there. Rodney, can you state what, like, a planned mixed-use area would be? What potential things could be in that?
Planned mixed use offers an opportunity for commercial, could be residential, could be multifamily residential. It really offers an opportunity for a great deal of uses across the spectrum. Not industrial, not heavy industrial, not light industrial, but commercial and/or multifamily type uses are very prevalent in the mixed use category. The neighborhood, the perimeter neighborhood area that's speckled, that's primarily a residential zoned area, or would become a residential zoned area. This is a generalized land use plan. This is not a zoning map. So this comprehensive plan puts in place the general land uses that would be accommodated within those portions of the plan. That planned neighborhood offers an opportunity for a number of uses, single family, two family, some multifamily, neighborhood office, neighborhood business, but not the large scale commercial type entities. Institutional, that sort of thing could still land on these speckled areas. The large green area that's depicted on here is parks and open space. That would accommodate stormwater as well as parks and open space. The question on one of the comments was, who would maintain that land? Land dedication is required based on the number of dwelling units that would be part of this subdivision. And in theory, most of that would be probably publicly dedicated land dedicated to the public for the city to own, operate, and maintain. Details to all be worked out, but generalized a statement about public park land. Am I missing anything else, or was there another follow-up question to that?
No, I think that would be helpful to answer some of the questions brought up.
I can just reinforce, obviously stormwater management is a major topic of concern out here, and the developer and their engineering team is well aware of it. The city is very cognizant of it as well. They are looking at adhering to even a higher standard than what the Dane County requirements are for the storm events that would have to be managed up to a 200-year event. So there is a conscious effort to put together a quality stormwater management plan for this area.
All right. I know I
Yep.
drive down B every single day, and in our bad rainstorms, I do see what you're talking about with the runoff and the water that sits in some of the properties there. So it's significant.
Yeah, the hope is that the water and the flooding out there that occurs will be helped by the development as we design it. So Steve and his team are working on that as well. So we're in constant touch with them, and then it gets approved by the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission. As Rodney mentioned, the park acreage, there is a certain amount of dedication required based on the number of units. That number hasn't been fully determined yet. They've agreed to donate land above and beyond that, but we don't know how many acres that is yet. And then, let's see, what else? I don't know the answer about the corn this year. I don't know. Do you know, Danielle?
I do. They are planting corn in May.
Okay, there's that answer. Let's see. And then the trail system is something that we're working out. You know, we have to be able to acquire the land to do that, so.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
what was her answer? Because I could not hear it.
On which part?
Corn.
The coverage.
They're planting corn.
Oh, they are, Danielle from STI, it says they are planting corn in May.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sorry about that. She's not mic'd. So, yeah, the trail system is something that we have to be able to come up with a plan. We just haven't gotten that far yet. So, but that's something we definitely are trying to incorporate throughout the development and make sure it connects to the south, to the 51 West, which is connecting to the Virgin Lake Trail. So we think when it's all said and done with, we're going to have a nice system for everyone to enjoy. So we appreciate the feedback tonight. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Farrell?
Yeah, sorry, Mayor, you gave me long enough to think, so I had more thought.
All right, just make sure you get up to the mic.
Sorry.
All right.
It's probably more for Director Shield, I guess. I remember in my reading of the comprehensive plan, I thought some section it said that there was a survey done and the citizens said that they really wanted Stoughton to remain predominantly a single-family community. Do we have a sense, are we on that road or and I know this is the 10,000-foot look, but
Right.
we're heading towards very quickly, the 500-foot look, and it'd be good to know if we're on that road or are we deviating from that? Because some of the comments were, we really want single family, not townhouses or duplexes. And
Valid question. So the overall desire to have 60 or more % single family may not be subdivision specific. As a community as a whole, I think that's the target that we continue to strive for. But certainly there has been a market shift since that and a market demand change. So that's not to say that they're not interested in doing a significant amount of single family primarily along the eastern areas of this plan, but you can recognize the areas both on the other side of 51 as well as in the mixed use areas. There's an opportunity for higher density in those areas as proposed under this. Now remember, this is a generalized land use plan.
Sure.
You're right, we're starting up here
Sure.
And working down to that level.
But this is a pretty fast-moving bus, so
It is. So there's,
we're going to get
the
there soon.
concepts that were mentioned earlier that might have been presented at the public meeting,
Right.
they're, at that point, that's what they are. They're concept plans.
Sure.
And we'll be working through both subdivision and plating and rezoning efforts going forward. And we'll have to evaluate all those requests that come in. Ultimately, they need to be consistent with this comprehensive plan, and that's somewhat the rationale for, I guess what you call the mixed use and/or the planned neighborhood, to offer you some opportunity for flexibility within that. But that's very consistent with the existing comprehensive plan area for this quadrant.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from any other commissioners? Anybody online have questions? Go ahead, Rodney.
I was just going to highlight, so the changes that are being requested of you are the map amendments as well as the narrative amendments that would be made to the overall document. I just wanted to make that point for the audience as well as the commissioners that if you proceed with this without any amendments, those are the type of changes that would occur after council takes action.
And then maybe just kind of help us get down to the 500-foot level. So if we go through and approve this, and we talked about the urban service area amendment, which is a stormwater plan, and then after that, what would the next steps be?
Some of these things are going to run in parallel, but you mentioned the urban service area amendment, where we look at how sewer and water and stormwater would be managed in these areas. We then go through that actually goes through the Dane County Regional Planning, Capillary Regional Planning Commission for approval of the expansion of the urban service area to extend public sewer into those areas. Separately from that, we'll have a subdivision plan and or a certified survey map that will start to create parcels within this area. And then ultimately, generally running at the same time would be rezoning requests for those areas, whether it's to single family or duplex or a commercial or whatever the land use, those land uses would have to be, or the zonings would have to be consistent with the comprehensive plan as amended.
All right, so we'll be more than likely seeing quite a bit of this here in the next several months. And as far as the development, I think it's going to be phased. The focus right now is to get through the approval process so they can begin plans for the corporate headquarters would be the first phase. And then while we're working through that, then they'll start working on some of these other things. So there'll be, platting and those sorts of things will come later, the preliminary plat, and then the final plat. So a whole bunch of infrastructure needs to be done out there for the roads and the sewer, water, utilities that need to be put in to serve the site. How that looks is yet to be determined. That's something that Steve and his team are working on as well, is how the layout's going to look. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how this will all work. Are there any questions at this point? Otherwise,
I have one.
okay, go ahead, Alder Majewski.
In this plan, and I understand this is a broad brush stroke here. But as I look at this, I see we have a planned mixed-use area on the western edge, and then across 51 we have a gigantic planned use mixed area, which is, as Rodney said, multifamily and commercial, basically. So how does this incredibly large planned mixed-use area on the west side of 51 get to across 51 to enjoy this large park when I see no feeler coming out in that direction to that? Because in the original, there was something coming off of the corner connecting that park to a possible connection in the future, but I'm not seeing that anymore. So am I wrong or am I right about that?
I think I can answer it in a couple ways. There is planned an underpass that would go under Highway 51 in this general region that would allow for trail connection between the two. And as far as the area on the west side of 51, while it's not part of this amendment area that's already planned as shown, this area has not had a refined concept plan put together, so the details of a stormwater management plan and or park land dedication isn't contemplated on the areas west of 51 at this point. They've worked through their initial concept planning in their own minds and put together a more structured land use proposal within the area that's proposed for the amendment east of 51. That's why you're able to see the large land dedication for stormwater and or parks and open space. That just hasn't evolved to that point for the areas on the west side of 51.
I understand that. I just want to ensure that we do not preclude having that access to that portion of the future community, the future high density housing community on that side of the road.
Yeah.
You know, that was a question that was brought up by another commissioner earlier about, you know, concerned about how much of this are we having, and in this small bite of the elephant, it's not a whole lot. But when you look at the bigger part of the elephant, there's a big chunk of it that will be. Will that push us over 60%, 50% into multifamily and to what this community wants it to look like? You know, market forces are, yes, that things are changing, and that's what they want. But it's not the developer's community. The community is owned by the citizens of this community, and I'm afraid that we are putting a huge amount of land into a use that's not necessarily what this community wants in that amount of volume. But my initial question is, I was on a soapbox, is that we ensure that we have that connection to get to that green space from one side to the other, and that we ensure that we show it.
Yeah, and the timeline for the underpass is in 2026, when the DOT does the 51 corridor project, as well as the roundabout at Highway B, which, you know, might present some opportunities at the roundabout there to do some crossing as well. And then I understand that the county is going to be repaving Highway B, and I just don't remember if it's this summer or next summer. But that'll be going on as well. So there's going to be a lot of activity for the neighbors out there, probably a lot of dust in the air, but we'll try to keep on them and make sure they water it as much as they can.
2026 will also see a roundabout at Rutland on Town Line Road, so there's a roundabout scheduled at this intersection as well in 2026.
As I applaud Stoughton Trailers for its land dedication, I'd just like to ensure that our connections leaving this development are not just basically glorified sidewalks, but actual greenways that will get us to other areas.
Yeah, and the plan is to have the sidewalks as part of the 51 project on both sides, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the glorified sidewalks, yes.
Yeah, the Highway 51 corridor, as the mayor alluded to, the city is working to have a 10-foot wide sidewalk installed on both sides of Highway 51 all the way up to County Highway B. In addition to the connection you've described east to west.
Commissioner Farrell.
To add to that too, during the open house, I asked the question of one of the gentlemen there, and he told me that the Wisconsin DOT was looking at dropping the speed limit at 35 from Rutland down to somewhere. They probably go around the curve, I guess. But just to kind of add to that mental picture what that's going to look like in the future, it's not going to be 55 miles an hour here anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, so right now it's 45.
It is.
45.
They've already reduced it to 45.
Oh, geez, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, there's a flashing light out there, so you should look for it.
That's a caution, though. That's not regulatory, that's advisory. The 45.
You're correct. They are designing that corridor to be 35 mile an hours all the way up to County B. It is part of the 2026 project.
Yeah, so part of the narrowing of the road and things like that, they have some strategies that they will employ to help bring that speed limit down, because what they tell us is people will go as fast as they think they can go, so you have to figure out ways to make them think to go slower. So that's part of what they're trying to do.
That's true. It's called free flow. It's a traffic engineering thing.
Oh.
How fast will people go if they can go as fast as they feel safe doing? Free flow conditions.
Exactly. Okay, any other questions or comments on this one? Sorry we can't have it back and forth, but you can certainly email us and we'll be glad to answer. Anything from commissioners? Okay, so is there a resolution in there, or is this just what we plan on doing with this tonight?
Somewhere in here.
You okay over there?
I'm gonna make it.
What do you got in that mug there?
Something not strong enough.
It's been a long day already. All right, so there's a resolution in the packet. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll move to approve the resolution.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Schumacher, a second by Bradford. Any discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. That motion does carry. All right, thank you. And then this goes to City Council.
There's a first reading and they have an ordinance format for council to act on the same plan. There's a first reading being introduced tomorrow night at council.
So if everything goes well at council, then we would actually take the vote on it 2 weeks from tomorrow at City Council. And there is a public comment period available at City Council as well. So thank you for being here tonight, and you're welcome to stay. But it's so nice out, I know what I'd do. Okay. Item number 8 is a certified survey to combine the properties at 1000 and 1008 Nordland Drive. And we'll pull up a map on this one. This is out at Nordic Ridge, I believe.
All right.
Pull that puppy up.
Yeah, that's my challenge with my screen here. Trying to get it to not jump too far. So this is on the southwest corner of Markins Gate in Nordland, on the western edge of Nordic Ridge. A purchaser is looking to purchase both properties and put a larger single-family home on it. You'll note in the resolution there's language as a condition that both water and sanitary sewer laterals that are piped into this property are to be extended into the building. We met collaboratively with the Stoughton Utilities folks. Brand new street here. Our desire is not to rip open a street to abandon sewer and water laterals that wouldn't be usable. We understand that they intend to be able to utilize both services into the facility, possibly one as a sewer exempt for watering their yard type setup. So that is a condition of the CSM as presented here in the resolution.
All right, any questions? Go ahead.
Will this in any way change any setback requirements? Or they?
Yeah, so the center lot line goes away, so obviously there's no setbacks from that any longer. So the perimeter, so they'll remain the same around the perimeter.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. So there is a resolution for this one. So we're looking for a recommendation to the City Council on this one as well.
Go ahead.
Pardon me? A motion by Bradford. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Carabello. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries, and that one will go to council. Item number 9 is a request for approval to allow a wider driveway at 325 and 333 Isham Street. And Isham Street is over kind of off 4th Street and heads over towards South Page.
So this is part of the Parker Cole addition. That was I believe was a 6-lot CSM. Sorry, no, I've split my screen somehow. So shown on your screen right now is the illustration that shows the desired curb opening. 29 feet would be the maximum under current regulations. As shown at the top of your screen here, that would be the interior lines. with the alignment as such, because the width of the driveway under current regulations without plan commission approval would only allow that to be 24 feet at the sidewalk. So you can see how it narrows down in this scenario. Under their proposed request, they're proposing to have a wider curb cut of 41 feet. I don't think it's limited to just this particular building. It's for the 6 different duplexes. There's all 6 buildings they're proposing to have this request. The red line represents their request. So it'd be 41 feet at each curb opening, and then it's a little bit wider also at the sidewalk locations as proposed. And the Plan Commission has authority to make this approval.
I think there's a detail that shows all the lots, maybe a little further.
Thank you.
There, yeah. And the rationale behind doing this?
Well, obviously the irregular nature of, well, you've got 2-car garages on the duplexes, and in order to have I'll call it a straight out path from your overhead garage door, you end up with a configuration more such that it's proposed as opposed to the one that would meet current regulations would have a bend, if you will, or a maneuver, movement that would have to be made in order to get in and out of the garage.
So our ordinance, our standards would assume that would normally be a single-car garage. Is that safe to say?
So not all duplexes, but most of them in town have garages together as opposed to the opposite sides of the property. Generally, our regulations, I think, are more written to anticipate just one double-car garage or maybe even a 3-car garage as opposed to a side-by-side, 2-car garage on either side. So,
Okay.
but the ordinance does allow for the Plan Commission to make findings of approval of such as shown.
All right. Any questions from commissioners on this one? No? Okay. No questions. So on this one, is there a resolution in there on this one?
There is, yep. Work to get to that.
So we'll get to the resolution here.
Yep.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Robinson, and a second by Bradford. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Item number 10 is Plan Development Concept Plan for lots 15 and lot 27 at Kettle Park West. And we'll get this, it looks like we have a guest here. Is that Connor?
Yep.
All right, come on up. So you might recall we had a plan in here, I don't know, was that last month? And they've made some changes to the plan, so Connor's here to give you an update of what they've come up with based on the feedback.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mayor Swadley. Good afternoon. Connor Kearney here with Forward Development Group again. As many of you may recall, the last time I believe we discussed the concept plan with Plan Commission was February 13th, and then also with Common Council on February 14th. And we received a great deal of helpful feedback during both of those meetings that caused us to revisit those concept plans that were presented. The main items generally focused on 3 key topics.
Can you come close to the mic or adjust it, because I'm getting a lot of feedback from the
Sure,
hall. Thank
of
you.
course, yeah, no problem.
Want to close the door?
Yeah,
I don't think we can close, don't we need to keep the door open?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Con-
At an
Connor, we
open
actually
meeting,
need
so
to
we need to
leave
keep
it
the
open.
door open, actually.
So
Sorry.
just yell on the mic.
Won't get an approval doing that.
All right. I think there's only 3 left, so.
Okay.
So just to summarize the conversations that we had last time, the main items focused generally on 3 key topics that were brought up as concerns. First, density in general was noted as a concern. Guidance was given that 140 units of housing may be too dense for this specific area of Kettle Park West. Second, traffic volumes generated by the proposed multifamily development were noted as a concern. The suggestion was made to commission a traffic study that would compare the previously proposed use of a conference event center for the parcel to the proposed use of multifamily housing. Third, site access and circulation was noted as a concern as well. As previously designed, the site was accessed via multiple points and required an access easement that would go through the current hotel site to the south. This raised concern with conflicting travel patterns as well as mixing commercial and residential traffic flows. In an effort to address these concerns, some notable updates were made to the concept plan. First and foremost, the entire style of housing was actually revisited, and we're now specifying a lower density product that we have sourced. The revised concept plan contemplates townhome style apartment living with multiple buildings as opposed to the previous design with 2 larger buildings and associated underground parking. We feel this change results in a better fit into the site context and also offers a nice transition between the commercial uses within Kettle Park West as well as the single-family housing in the Meadows. As a result, the overall density is now reduced as well. We are proposing to comply with MR24 conventional zoning standards, meaning density would not exceed a maximum of 117 units based on this parcel size as determined by the preliminary CSM. A general development plan is still anticipated as part of the formal approval process, but that's being proposed to address other potential zoning exceptions, but that density metric would remain in compliance with conventional MR24 zoning. Since our last discussions, we've also commissioned a traffic study with a third party, KL Engineering, to compare the previous plans of a conference event center on the back half of Lot 15 to the proposed plans for multifamily housing. And the findings of that study are going to be included in subsequent submittals, but I will say after an initial review, the findings were that the traffic volumes associated with the proposed multifamily use would indeed be less in volume generation and trip generation than the previous contemplated use for the conference event center.
Hope so.
And then lastly, due to the change in building design, the site plan layout also encountered a number of changes. Most importantly, any proposed access through the hotel site has been eliminated. It's now fully contained within the project site as well via a single controlled access point off Cromwell Court. In addition, we've also provided drive aisles that allow for more suitable circulation patterns throughout the site for fire and EMS services. And we'll note that careful attention will be paid to vehicular movements and turning radii during the future SIP process and detailed site design process. So all in all, we believe the feedback from city staff, Plan Commission, and Common Council has resulted in an improved project. We look forward to any further comments you may have here this evening. FDG does intend to move forward with a formal application for a CSM, a rezone, and a general development plan in accordance generally with the concept plans reviewed this evening. But I'd like to thank you all again for your continued review and welcome any questions or comments you have. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open it up for questions or comments from commissioners. Anybody have any? Commissioner Bradford.
Connor, how many buildings are you building around? It sounded like it's a courtyard, so is it 4 and then a courtyard in between?
Correct.
Or are you changing?
It would be 4 separate structures as we're showing in the current concept plan right now.
I don't think that's the current one.
Isn't that the current one?
Yeah,
Is that that's the current one, right?
Okay, I guess from the pictures.
I'm sorry, what?
Like it was more of a courtyard.
This is the proposed one.
The one on the screen is the proposed, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So that's,
Correct.
yeah.
Yep.
so it's now so it's 4 buildings.
Yep.
Correct. We're showing the current concept as 4 buildings. Now, we haven't done detailed design on the buildings themselves, so think unit mix, layout, sizing of units. If that were to potentially be 5 buildings at 20 units each, instead of 4 buildings at 24 units or something along those lines, the final determination hasn't been made, but the current concept shows 96 units for a total of 4 buildings.
Okay, you're proposing 96, but what you're saying is it could go up to the 117 that you mentioned before.
Correct. We're unsure of the final detailed site design. The GDP process would just establish the MR24 zoning as a density basis.
And so the access now would be completely via Cromwell Court?
Correct.
Is that correct? One way in, one way out.
And we did, oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Go ahead.
I was just going to note that we also provided, it's denoted as number 1 on the concept plan there, but we provided looping vehicular access, so in the event that EMS services are needed at the adjacent senior living facility, that drive aisle can be provided with still allowing internal circulation for residents separate from any vehicular access at that point.
Go ahead.
And can you speak about the green space? Because there wasn't a whole lot before, and now there's a lot less. And I think there was a concern that we brought up about the connection to the park dedication land, wherever the parkland's going to be dedicated. So can you kind of speak to what's going on with that?
Absolutely, yeah. So as part of changing the product type to a lower density townhome style unit, what it does, and this will be denoted in the general development plan when we talk of landscape surface requirements, LSR, but it does eat up a lot more green space than the previous concept of higher density and higher buildings. So although it does fit into the context a little better from a programming standpoint, it does eat up more developable area. So what we've done in lieu of general passive open space is we've specified, and it's labeled as number 2 on the concept plan, but it's a more formal gathering amenity space. We're thinking a patio space, a fire table, grilling stations, picnic tables, that sort of thing, and gardens in that central area of the development. And then we would work with staff to provide appropriate connectivity to those existing trails. We're showing a trail connection to the multi-use trail that runs on the rear of the outlot there by the alley lots. Further trail connections could be considered. We want to ensure it's convenient for the residents to access the amenities of the commercial center.
They would be required to dedicate additional parkland, which would probably be connected to the other larger park that's already been approved. So what they've been doing is, if they've been adding density, they've been adding the parkland to the existing park, which is, it's not pictured on here, but it's kind of the west of the development, kind of out where the woods are by the pond, out in that area. Any other questions from commissioners in the room here?
I have a question about basically, just to give me a historical perspective, I guess, of
This park here,
the
they would add to that.
previously talked about for this space, event center. Was that the access for that? Was that going proposed? I don't even know if it actually rose to a proposal necessarily. I don't know how far along the discussion of the event center got. But was the thought for that to be accessed through the hotel parking lot and Cromwell Court? Just to give me a...
It was, yes. It was originally anticipated to be connected to the hotel itself, all
Okay.
in one lot.
That's what I kind of thought.
But the event center was not going to have access out Cromwell Court. The convention center is shown on this screen. This aerial shows the entire lot that has the hotel, and the area in the rear portion was planned for a convention center, and that was going to be fully, unless there was a separate connection agreement, but would have been able to be accessed just off of Jackson Street.
Okay.
The MR24 lot that exists currently is this odd-shaped one here. As was highlighted, a portion of this is being proposed to be converted from the planned development for business to be added to the MR24 lot to the north. And as depicted in their concept plan, they are proposing all access off of Cromwell Court for this portion. The discussion about parkland, this particular, I believe it's a 4-acre tract on the far west side here, was an additional area that was dedicated and is in the city title with expansion anticipated for the parkland, and that was based on the change in density elsewhere within the subdivision already.
And I can tell you, Connor, there is a desire for the wooded area as potential dedication. We'd like to preserve the woods and hopefully make that an amenity of the parkland.
And to reiterate, it is our preference to expand that already dedicated piece and dedicate more additional parkland in that area to create more of a regional park system as opposed to bifurcated smaller green spaces throughout the development. Whether we're successful in working with the landowner to do that is to be seen, but that is our plan A right now.
Yeah, any other questions from anyone in the room here? Anybody online? Alder Maskey, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Probably they don't want to hear them. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just looking at the density and intensity exemptions, dropping from landscape surface area from 50 to 30%. How does that affect our stormwater runoff? And we also are looking at pushing everything back from a 50-foot setback to a 25-foot setback. So we're fitting basically 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. And same question, how does it affect our stormwater? Does it add, how much extra pressure does it put on it? And everything downstream. Impervious surface area is increasing, so yeah, concerns there.
So at what point in the process would those be addressed, Rodney?
As part of the GDP as well as the SIP, obviously stormwater management plan would have to be reviewed and approved to meet if there's any additional on-site requirements that would be necessary. There was some presumption of uses and intensity of this site, both with the convention center and as well as the MR24. So inherent in the overall stormwater management plan, there was some level of impervious nature anticipated. I can't speak to the specific differences between that at this time, but that would have to be revealed and evaluated as part of a changed use plan.
Okay. Anything else, Alder Maskey?
No, that's it.
All right. Commissioner Robinson, do you have any thoughts on it at all?
No.
Okay.
I've got a,
Go ahead.
I just, looking at this, it just seems, going back to Tom's comment of trying to shove 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag, the only access point being through Cromwell Court just strikes me as a little funny for some reason. Like we're really trying to sieve traffic into all these units, potentially 117 units through that one spot. Seems a little much.
I'm trying to think of if there's any other examples in the city where we might have a layout, because I was thinking like Greenspire, you come in off of, there's really only one way in and out of that, I think, or some of the other ones.
Yeah, Greenspire is probably one that's probably similar in the number of units, probably less drivers and vehicular traffic in the Greenspire scenario. The Olson Court scenario is, I believe, 60 units total on the dead end. Maybe 70, but it's not 100, I don't believe. So those come to mind, but they're not quite the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's, that Cromwell Court's like this, cul-de-sac we're turning into a throughway. Just seems weird. I don't know how else to say it, I guess.
Because it looks like a bulb and not a road. Is that why it looks weird, or?
Yeah, and that, that's the only access point for all these things. It's just strikes me as a little, I look at that and that seems like a bizarre way to do it.
This overview gives you a little perspective on a bigger scale as to what's at issue here.
Mm-hmm.
Cromwell Court is shown here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bradford.
I think the other thing is, it's not just the residents of what's proposed, it's that there are houses also going to be driving onto that to get out. In the lots before you get to the cul-de-sac. So, you know, it's not just those residents on that road, it's residents in those homes as well.
Yeah,
Then, as we said before, it's residents coming from the other direction, from the housing,
Right.
you know. So I appreciate what you all have done in, you know, trying to look at the density issue and the closing off from the commercial, the True Hotel and that kind of thing. But I think Tom's right when he's saying, you know, we're trying to make what was going to be a convention center now into a residential plat. And I think that's the problem. What you had as residential, no problem. I don't think we'd have the same impact or not, but it's that piece behind the truth that's creating the issue.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges, not only for them, but really any developer, is what we're hearing is, in order to get the economy of scale, you got to get close to 100 units. So that's, I think, the challenge. Now, you know, it's not up to us to necessarily figure that out, but I think that's one of the things they're trying to work through as they do this, because it doesn't pay to do 48 units. You just, you know, you're not going to be able to cash flow on that. But I think you're here to look for more feedback, right? I think
Correct. Yep.
you're hearing some. I
Yeah.
don't know if you're hearing enough or not. Do you want more? Or?
This has been great. I mean, as many comments as there are, I'm writing everything down, so.
Police, fire, and EMS have not provided input yet at this point. We've supplied them the concept plan. We have not heard back from them yet at this point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear too, and when I look at it, I think I've got the same sort of mental block, and the cul-de-sac being turned into a road, it's just sort of a hurdle to get over. But I mean, he did mention that, you know, his traffic engineer has said that the preliminary, anyway, is showing it less than the convention center. So, yeah, I mean, we can anecdotally second guess that, but if he's got the data that shows it's going to be less than what we were doing, yeah.
Well, but the convention center wouldn't have been going through that road. It would have been coming right out on a jack.
That's true,
Which is a larger.
That's true, yeah.
Because the event center or convention center
Yeah.
would have been considered the back of the hotel, or
Right, yeah. Yeah, I guess
conceptually a component of the hotel or extension of the hotel. As opposed to
I'm trying to zoom out a little bit and look at the 10-pound bag. From the 10-pound bag perspective, the traffic is less than what it would have been, I guess. So, or the 5-pound bag, I guess. Whatever the analogy would be. So, anyway.
Rodney, I just have another question. What is the tallest building right now in Stoughton? Residential, I should change it to that.
Well, 40 feet, I believe, is generally our maximum height.
What is it?
And that's measured at the parapet wall or at the mean height of the gable, so approximately 4 stories.
All right, any other questions? So where do we go from here?
This is just for discussion. This is not an actionable item tonight. It's an introduction of a revised concept plan. They're taking their feedback, and as he indicated, they plan to proceed with submitting a GDP request for rezoning along with a CSM to combine the lots.
So we'll have to get you the feedback from emergency operations and see where that takes us. Certainly, we'll have that and the traffic study before you guys see something again.
For sure.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the feedback, everybody.
All right. Item number 11 is discuss the home occupational sales. So who wants to go through this one? This is from the last meeting, isn't it?
Yep.
So you guys had made a request for us to follow up on the home occupational sales ordinance. And I know we did some research, and who's going to go through it, you or Michael?
Well, if you've read the memo, we provided some background, and the original intent wasn't necessarily geared towards a use that was at least discussed that evening. It was more for something that wasn't your Tupperware sales. It was something bigger and different than that. But nonetheless, there was an acknowledgement that somebody had been licensed for something like that in the city, but it wasn't the same scenario as what they were seeking to do. So they're pursuing online sales. That request has kind of gone away. That doesn't mean there might not still be an interest to evaluate home occupations here differently. Again, I kind of suggested we might be searching to amend rules for a problem that isn't really a problem. I'm not saying there isn't things that might not be happening that are not completely consistent with our regulations, but they're not in the forefront. They're certainly not being brought to our attention. I know there was a suggestion that we were creating situations where people were doing things illegally. I don't think we've seen it being a problem, nor do I know that we've created a criminal out of people by having the ordinances on the books the way they are. That doesn't mean we can't rewrite them. It's just, is it something we want to take on as an activity at this point?
Thoughts or questions on this one? Go ahead.
Another question, I guess just a comment. I was the one that said, we're making criminals. We're not, actually not, because they would be
already
ones that were
criminals, right?
voluntarily participating in the activity. But a lot of them didn't know that there was an ordinance. When I read on Facebook, a lot of people were surprised by it, and they were like, "What? I didn't even know there was such a ordinance that we were violating," and they've been doing it for a long time. But I mean, I know there are some places I can think of. One gentleman that does a pretty robust weather dependent business selling signs. It seems like if nothing else, and I don't know where these taxes go, but it seems like somebody's missing out on some taxes. And I don't know what that number is, but it could very well be enough to hire another staff member to run this and bring these businesses into the sunshine instead of telling them, well, we're going to just turn a blind eye to you and keep doing what you're doing. And we don't have a problem until we have a problem, kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not the staff guy that's going to have to be doing the lifting, so I understand that too.
What taxes are you referring to that we might be missing out on?
The folks that are, selling stuff out of their driveway.
But that wouldn't be a local. The city wouldn't receive any.
That's what I
tax
say. I
benefit.
don't think it goes to the city anyway.
County or
Right.
state.
Well, I mean, it goes to the state, but then I guess it eventually comes down. I mean, some of that comes back, right, Mayor? I don't know.
And I don't know if that would change if the zoning, if the home occupation ordinances
Yeah.
change to allow those to be permitted. It doesn't necessarily equate to them reporting those as taxable income being generated.
Oh, I thought it would. Okay.
No.
'Cause I thought it
They
was
still
like,
have their own.
Yeah, it's still kind of beyond the honor.
properly
system.
zoned, regulated, and taxed. I thought that was kind of a group.
The zoning doesn't tie directly to the taxation.
No, but I mean, but it could, right?
I don't know of a link that draws that connection.
Okay. If you said, hey, you need a permit to operate that business, and as part of that process, we're going to start collecting taxes, or somebody's going to collect taxes on you, I don't know.
Well, we wouldn't be the one collecting them.
Okay.
The only thing we would potentially collect would be a permit. And quite frankly, our administrative costs for doing that, it'd be like, we've debated internally whether or not we should even be collecting permits on chicken licenses and things like that, because it's more effort than it's worth to actually collect the money in some cases and then issue a license and mail it out and follow up and make sure, they're in compliance. I mean, we do Usually we do an initial check and that's it, unless we get a complaint. And as far as I know, we haven't had any issues. I think where people get uncomfortable are the neighbors with the home sales when they see people lining up to buy stuff out of the house. They think something not legal might be going down, and then we will get calls on that, and then that creates its own set of, issues. So I haven't really seen an issue. We haven't received any feedback from the police department that they've had any concerns about the ordinance, so I don't know if it's worth doing and to try to accommodate it for the requests that we have. I don't know if I would want to promote that kind of business anyway.
Sure. Well, and the one request, the gentleman that wanted to, I guess he wanted to sell guns, that's not this one you're talking about in this memo, or is it?
It is. Yes.
Oh, it's the same fellow. Okay, I thought
No.
maybe this was another guy. Okay.
No.
Okay, so then what you're saying is it's not allowed by ATF anyway.
Well, it would be if we allowed it. If we
If you
allowed it, they
ATF
would
would
too.
allow it.
Right.
But
Okay.
then, we'd be getting the calls from the neighbors wondering what's going on there, and my feeling is if you want to do business like that, rent or buy space in the commercial district. That's why you have a commercial district. That's my personal feeling.
Which we did have somebody doing that downtown a while back,
Yep,
I think,
absolutely.
Yeah,
10 years ago or something.
Yep.
yeah.
And if you go way back, there was
Oh.
more than one probably in town. But there was definitely one long-standing one downtown
Yeah,
for
I'd be
many
fine
years.
with that. So I don't know, at this point, I mean, the recommendation is to take no action unless we're given something different to do.
I'm gonna say, let's go with the recommendation, and we just leave it the way it is and do nothing with this.
All right, I see other heads nodding, so I guess that's the direction, so, we just wanted to follow up on it. So future agenda items?
We're going to have an urban service area amendment for the Stoughton Trailers Development Area. Ultimately, we'll have preliminary plat, final plat area for that. We're expecting a final plat for Magnolia Springs, the south end of Page Street. That's coming forward. Stonecrest will be pursuing the urban service area amendment, so we anticipate some type of land division following that activity as well. Stoughton Hospital, there'll be an SIP coming forward related to that. So there's plenty of things in the hopper.
Should I reiterate my interest in discussing setback for gasoline stations?
We haven't seen a request yet.
Okay, so I will formally make a request.
All right, any other future agenda items? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, can I just ask one question? I read somewhere, but just to kind of refresh my memory, tomorrow's meeting, sort of procedurally, so we're going to have a plan commission meeting, like we have now.
It's a joint meeting.
There'll be a joint meeting.
So we'll start off together so we can all hear the public hearing.
Okay.
We'll both do roll call and all that. We'll go through the presentation, have the public hearing, and then the plan commission will continue basically until they're done with whatever it is you guys decide to do. And then you'll adjourn, and then the council will continue on with their regular meeting.
Okay. And for the plan commission, the quick trip is the only item.
Yep.
So we start out together, then we break out to plan commission, decide that, and then the plan commission adjourns.
You won't break out. We're all going to be seated here.
It's going to be all okay.
Yep.
And I think procedurally, we're talking about trying to have the commissioners kind of be in the same area of the tables for the evening meeting, and then all the council members will be kind of together. And then when your portion of the meeting is done, you're welcome to stay, or you'd be adjourned, so you wouldn't have to stay.
We'll probably take a short break after the plan commission's done and get everyone resituated and then start out with the council business. And the reason we did it jointly is because both groups had to hear the testimony from the presentation and then from the residents. And we just felt it would be more efficient if you all heard it at the same time. The council members were also sent a video of the plan commission meeting from the first public hearing so they could review that evidence, as well as Michael's been gathering the rest of the data to make sure that's all posted on the website as well. So we had stuff that was continuing to come in today, so you might want to check your emails all the way through tomorrow. The city attorney sent out an email late this afternoon. I don't know if you read it yet.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay. And he wanted to make sure that everybody had that question answered. Obviously, if you have it, others may as well. So we appreciate that.
And just out of curiosity, do we have any idea on how many people signed up to speak?
About a dozen right now.
Okay.
And then typically, we limit it to 3 minutes, but the council can adjust that if they so choose. That'll be totally up to them, but
That's a joint decision, the plan commission and council, that's one
Yeah.
thing you guys are doing jointly,
Yeah.
trying to figure out the parameters for the public hearing.
But I know that, at least the people I've spoken to they're working together, and a lot of people do time out their speeches ahead of time, which helps keep things efficient. So that's how it'll go, and we appreciate you guys giving up more time to do this, but it's just one of them issues that, we need to get to conclusion. So I don't know if it'll be fully concluded tomorrow night, but it'll be a step in the right direction. And we'll explain that as we go through the process tomorrow night. And I'm sure Rodney and the city attorney will help walk me through that as well, because I'm trying to remember if we've had many joint meetings in the past.
We have for comprehensive plan, when we updated the entire comprehensive plan, actually, I think when we ground up type thing, we had some joint meetings then. That's been a while ago.
Yeah, we've had a few with the RDA, so we're getting a little better at it, but we don't want to get too good at it. So, anything else? I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Caravello and Schumacher, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you. See you tomorrow night.